nerderotic.com.
Welcome back to Nerderotic. My name is Gary Beekler, and I come to you from nerderotic.com. And once again, we need to talk about the Access Media as it relates to Captain Marvel. No, we are not talking about Brie Larson. We can talk about how much money this movie made. Wow, it made a lot of money, and this was as expected. It's an MCU film, but I will maintain that it is Marvel's first real mistake. And sometimes mistakes take time to come to fruition. So that's why, as the Access Media is taking their victory lap, there's no such thing as a victory marathon. And that's what they're going to have to run if they want to keep this narrative up. Now, I'm going to show you an article here, and I love to invert headlines. So we got Captain Marvel's trolls completely missed what the movie's actually about. Well, the Access Media completely missed what the core of this movement is all about. Again, they are painting us into a political side. This was the same thing that was used towards people who were complaining about comic books, complaining about sci-fi books, complaining about video games. They tried to make this about right versus left, and they've succeeded in some avenues of that. But I'm going to fight that every step of the way. I, along with a lot of other people, maintain if you continue down the quote-unquote woke road, there is a lot of data that proves it will destroy your franchise and alienate a large portion of your fans. These things take time, and again, the MCU has built up a ton of goodwill so they can afford a mistake. And that's what many of us have been worried about. When you see articles or keywords like diversity and inclusiveness, what it actually means is identity politics, which is completely different from having a more diverse and inclusive cast, which nobody is against, by the way. We don't want to lose the MCU to this crap, but part of this is because of the Access Media. It's reciprocal what's going on between Disney and the Access Media. Disney makes something woke. They know the Access Media will fall in line and love it and write ridiculous articles like the Skrulls are actually better in Captain Marvel than they were in the comics. That might be a video for another day. That is the most ridiculous statement, again, from Screerant. But we're going to go back to this article, and I'm going to do something I rarely do. I'm going to point out the writer, Matt Morrison. He is not a newbie. Most of the writers for these shill websites are, new to this field, new to fandom. This guy is not. Matt Starman Morrison has been writing about comics since before the word blogging was coined, and this is true. But I see him more as a comic academic and not really knowing much about trends. But that's why I'm taking this guy on. While I am not a comic book academic, I sold them for 10 years. I know a lot about trends. I know a lot about what people actually buy. And people won't actually buy this over time. Now, maybe the MCU doesn't care. Maybe they just wanted the quick cash now, and it certainly worked. Props to them. Kevin Feige's a genius. I'm not going to deny that. And the MCU is still great. This hasn't ruined it. I don't need to see this movie ever again. But once Endgame comes out, that might be the endgame for the MCU if they continue down this woke road. Let's go to the article. With Captain Marvel opening higher, further, faster than any female-led film in history, it seems safe to say that the efforts of various trolls to sabotage the movie's success have failed miserably. There is an irony in that failure, both in how they managed to showcase their ignorance of Carol Danvers' character and what she represents in general, and how they attempted to promote Alita Battle Angel, a movie even more antithetical to their stated values over Captain Marvel. So he builds the narrative trying to lump us in with all the quote-unquote alt-right trolls because they have no argument against those of us who just want this stuff brought back in the middle. Those of us who just simply don't like the film. And some of us cannot like the film because of the agenda put into it. The overall man-hate that was put into it is part of an agenda, but it is fake wokeness. It is nothing that's going to last. It's nothing Disney actually really cares about. They just wanted to make as much money as possible, and it worked. It worked on the Normies. I've talked about the Normies quite a bit here. They make the world go around. That is the primary reason the comic book industry is crashing and burning right now, because they lost the Normies. Why did they lose the Normies? Well, they oversaturated the market, the storytelling went downhill, the art went downhill, and the straw that broke the camel's back, it got too political. Identity politics. drove the normies away, and that could happen to the MCU, especially if you keep painting any critic of this film as a troll. The stated reasons behind the trolls' efforts to wreck Captain Marvel's opening weekend are as wide and varied as the tactics utilized to accomplish that end. Angry YouTube videos complaining about Brie Larson being a man-hater, and tweets of alleged insider sources claiming that Larson had been fired from Avengers Endgame, I missed that one, ran wild in the weeks leading up to Captain Marvel's release. The efforts to review bomb again, pushing a narrative that doesn't really exist. It was an indicator, not review bomb, but Matt knows this, but they continue to run with the lie. Aggregation site Rotten Tomatoes resulted in the site removing users' ability to rate or comment on the movies before the official release date. YouTube took similar steps, and it certainly did. There's been a lot more evidence of that over the weekend. I will talk about that later. To change their search metrics as to stop trolls from dominating the searches for videos relating to Captain Marvel. Well, as far as search results go, people search for what they're going to search for. And if the troll quote-unquote videos are the ones that pop up, well, that's because those are the videos that are getting the most interaction. And what YouTube is doing is killing itself. And it is shutting down anybody's access to what they want to look for and what they think of a film if they just simply don't like this film for whatever reason. I didn't like it mostly because it was just a bad movie. It was a horrible story. He brought up we didn't get what Carol Danvers was about. Please tell me within this article, what was she about in this film? Other than just being awesome from the get-go and being more awesome later on. There was no journey in there whatsoever. And if you try to sell me that, I would love to hear it. Please be specific on how I missed Carol's hero's journey in this film. Now, you know I hate to get political here, so political warning. I am not going to get political at all. I'm just reading what's in the article. This does not state my views at all. I am just going to use this as an example of running a false narrative against critics of Captain Marvel. Presumably, the intent promoting Alita Battle Angel over Captain Marvel was to pit two science fiction themed movies with female leads and feminist themes against one another as proof that their hatred wasn't of women specifically, but of Brie Larson. There is, however, a deep irony, that's too many howevers, in a right-wing movement promoting Alita, given that the film's core ideals are far more progressive in tone and diametrically opposed to the beliefs of American conservatives like Posobiec than those presented in Captain Marvel. The original manga that inspired Alita Battle Angel is famed for its environmental and populist themes as Alita fights against corrupt evil and wealth-hoarding plutocrats who live in luxury above the earth that they all but destroyed in the waste from their city in the sky. Gee, I wonder what Disney is. By contrast, Captain Marvel offers perhaps the most idealized view of American military pilots since Top Gun. Yeah, Captain Marvel was so jingoistic. Where's that article, Mary Sue? Featuring two pilots, test pilots, and a secret agent with a military background single-handedly stopping an alien invasion of Earth. So the next two paragraphs, he attacks Jack Posobiec. I know Jack about Jack, and he's got nothing to do with this video. He is just one person. If he started the Alita Challenge, that is news to me. I liked Alita because Alita had a hero's journey. Carol did not. I tell people to watch that movie because it's a better film than Captain Marvel. If you take away the MCU banner, you put a different superhero name on this movie, nobody's watching it. It's a bad film. It did well because of the brilliance of the MCU brand. But what this writer is trying to do is to paint us all as trolls. While the intention of these trolls can be debated, one thing seems clear in the wake of their failure. There is no profit to be found in studios lending an ear to online trolls. The record-setting crowds lining up to see Captain Marvel compared to the more modest gains made by Alita Battle Angel over the past weekend are proof of that. With any luck, these individuals will find some more wholesome and profitable way to spend their time. So he really enjoyed pointing out the irony that the right-wing Jack Posobiec, again, I don't know anything about this guy, likes Alita, a progressive film. Maybe Jack just liked the movie because it was better than Captain Marvel. I find it ironic that somebody who probably paints himself, Matt, that's you, as anti-establishment is doing the bidding of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. one that doesn't really listen to the fans, and you're doing their bidding by trying to silence fans, silence critics, silence the people by painting them all as trolls, as right-wing trolls. He used the word trolls 8 times in that article, and however twice in one sentence. But this takes us back to the normies. While they do make the world go around, they are fickle as hell, and they don't hang around anything forever. That's why it's very important to keep your hardcore fan base. But how do you lose your hardcore fan base? With identity politics. We've already seen what happens with Marvel Comics. We've seen what happens with Star Wars. We see what's happening to Star Trek. We see what's happening to Doctor Who. All of this because of identity politics. Specifically when it's used in a way that destroys the characters that they've known and loved for decades, helped cultivate for decades. The normies don't notice this stuff right now. But if you lose the hardcore fans, those of us who shepherd and steward people into fandom by pointing them to the good stories that they didn't know about, that's where you lose the future. That is where you lose the longevity of your franchise. And again, maybe Disney and Marvel don't give a crap about that. Maybe they're just trying to get as much money as they can now, and they're not worried about the long game. They're just worried about the next quarter, which could be a reality. But as long as they have a willing ally in the access media to help silence voices, they can continue doing this and continue telling people to come out and watch a mediocre to bad film and come after YouTubers, because we are planted firmly in their head, because this is the last place fans can really come to talk to each other, and Disney just can't have that.
nerderotic.com. Please subscribe.